Back again, another episode, and I thought after last week, I had on friend of the show Matt Slonwhite talking about the way too early Seattle Kraken expansion draft kind of recap. I thought it was only fair to give other friend of the show and TikTok semi-famous homie, you're getting there, Zack Kelly, amateur analyst, a chance to come back on, in particular today, because today is the last of the like major days before we start getting toward camps and openings, unless, I mean, there's going to be people that hold out, but today is free agent day. So this is the day where the majority of the teams are going to be built out. So I wanted to start first by getting your thoughts on the bungled up expansion draft process and maybe your thoughts on the team. I will let you know that I actually like the way they built the team despite what everybody thinks. But I'll let you get your thoughts. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me back. It's always a lot of fun. Definitely at the time, I was one of those people that was like, what? Like, there were so many head scratcher picks that they made.
Yeah.
And like, yes, you could see that they were going for building for the future by taking guys like Morgan Geekie over Niederreiter. But those exact picks is like, is Geekie going to be that good? But now seeing them hit free agency and make some moves, I mean, it makes more sense to me. But there were still some head scratcher moves like McDermott on LA. I didn't understand that one, and I still don't. Like, I guess he's a character guy, but
didn't he get traded?
Yeah, actually, I think he did end up getting traded. But like, I don't know. I feel like they missed the mark a little bit, but I understand the route that they were going by not taking guys like Tarasenko and Drouin and all those higher paid athletes.
Yeah.
Because they could have had a great team out of the gate. And then it's kind of like rolling the dice moving forward. Vegas made off well, and maybe Seattle won't. So I feel like they played it safer.
It's definitely it's a character team, and on the show last week we talked about how it was a blue collar team through and through. It's not really meant to hit you in the face with a bunch of flash. It's more about let me show you like the lunch pail, let's go to work kind of team. And I think that's good for that market and starting out, because you're going to need guys that fans are going to want to fall in love with, and you're not building around, like Marc-Andre Fleury was the name in Vegas. People also have a little bit of revisionist history because William Carlson was not that big of a deal when he got picked.
No.
He's turned into that. He's fantastic, but when he got selected, he was not the guy that he is.
No,
and you know, and people are like, oh yeah, but the other guys that are on there, it's like, well, okay, yeah, you traded for your captain, you traded for Pacioretty. You know, you sign some guys in free agency, and all of that is good, but it's really easy to look at what Vegas has done and say they killed the expansion picks, when, if you remember when that team came out, it was like 4 lines built out of no better than second and third liners.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, well, why are they playing this well? And it was partly because they had a chip on their shoulder for being exposed, but also because they were a identity team. They knew exactly what they were getting into. So what did you think about the show itself?
Oh my God. I think it was awful. Like, and right from all of the picks being out beforehand, I know it's not entirely their fault. I mean, it is, because you got to be able to hold a secret, but they were independent journalists that got their hands on the picks and released them. So like, I get that, but you got to do a better job. And then right from announcing Cale Fleury as a forward and the Carolina Panthers and the Anaheim Mighty Ducks and whatever celebrity it was that they brought on stage, and he whispered to Buddy or whispered into the mic or whatever actually happened. Hey, if I get your name wrong, just tap in. Like it didn't feel the same as it did with the Vegas expansion, because I think they did a good job with that. This one just wasn't. It just wasn't good, and I sat and I watched the whole thing just dead. Like it wasn't there.
Matt, last week was one of the, like, I guess, dozen people that didn't see the leaked list before watching the show. So he found it to be interesting. I thought they bungled it up and the NHL had a golden opportunity missed because they let that list out. The list was the main thing for me. I can deal with the cheesy, announcements and guys missing names, but if you're going to remove the element of suspense, everything else needs to be flawless. I will give a shout out to Marshawn Lynch with my boy Callie as the best announcement. But is what it is. They blew it.
Straight up.
I'll just put they blew it. And that brings us to today. I'm going to skip over the draft because if people want to check out draft stuff, they should follow you on TikTok, where you do an excellent job talking about everything prospects and up.
Thank you.
Definitely need to check out Amateur Analyst on TikTok. 100% a must follow. So that brings us to today, Free Agent Day, which, let's be honest, is really the big day in terms of like where moves are being made.
Yeah.
There were a couple of trades that happened before that were big. I don't necessarily want to touch on those because a lot of what has happened kind of makes those look paled in comparison. Although I do think it's hilarious that Gostisbehere got sent to the desert for literally nothing.
They paid him to take
it. They're like, please go. What are you getting back? We don't care. An Uber Eats gift card.
I have Cap Friendly up right now, and there's a couple of trades here that I didn't notice. That must have just happened. Vanacek got traded.
Okay.
From Seattle.
That makes sense.
Washington.
Really?
For a second round pick.
All right, breaking news here on the episode. Let's talk about why they had to do that. Because that was one of the biggest signings that happened today, I think, in terms of like wow factor for me at least.
Yeah, so I mean, it makes sense because now they have Drieger signed up and he's 27. They have Grubauer signed up and he's an elite goalie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, by the time that Drieger is done his contract, he'll be 30. And I think Vanacek's time's passed. So maybe they took Vanacek and was like, hey, if we end up signing Grubauer, the guy that we actually want, we'll trade him back. Is maybe what my thought is. I mean, sure, man, they got a second round pick in 2023 for him, and Washington gets their goalie back. Sure. There's also the Boston Bruins sending Daniel Vladar to the Calgary Flames, another goalie trade, and Will Butcher in a fifth to Buffalo for nothing.
Amazing. These trades for nothing blow my mind a little bit.
It's got to be flat cap, right? That's got to be.
Of course it is. Yeah.
So.
Grubauer surprised me. I'll be honest. Grubauer surprised me, and listening to some of the analysts today, it seems like it surprised them as well because the team around him in Colorado is a contender. They're top notch for at least the next 2 years. Then McKinnon's sweetheart deal is over, and they'll have to figure something else out. But the team around them is like they're inked up and they're ready to go. And now they don't have a goalie.
Yeah, and it's not like they didn't have the cap space for him. I mean, after signing Makar, after literally having their entire team locked up, other than Tyson Yost, they still have $12 million.
Yeah,
and that's weird. And now a team that thought that they were going to be quite comfortable and got out of the little cap squeeze that they had with Landeskog being a question mark and Makar being a question mark. All of a sudden, you have Francouz as your starter, and I mean, Francouz is all right. He's
not Grubauer, though.
He's not Grubauer. I mean, 1920, he didn't play at all last season, but 1920, he put up a 923 in 34 games. So, I mean, Francouz is a decent goalie, but he's not Grubauer. It's weird.
I don't know how you let Grubauer go. I don't know how you let him get to this point. If I'm the Avs, I'm probably scratching my head wondering what happened there, because you went from contender to a bit of a question mark. And I don't mean that like disrespectful to the front end, but you got to have a guy that saves the pucks, even if you're scoring 6. Yeah, it's this kind of, it feels like Grubauer asked for a number and Colorado came back with less, and he was like, I don't understand why you won't work with me on this. You have the room. And they're like, well, we're not. Good luck getting that elsewhere. And Seattle's like, hello, we have 30 million in cap space. Come on over.
And like, there's no other options for goalies in free agency anymore. No. I was talking before the show with one of my Boston Bruins fans, and I'm looking at their goalie situation going, Swayman and Vladder's who you're going to have to go for if you can't get Ullmark. That's the only last option. And then they signed Ullmark.
Yeah.
So now there's nobody. There is no goalies left in free agency that can play a starter or even tandem position. Like all the the majority of the goalie contracts that were signed, I think, are awful, by the way.
Yes.
But we could get into that. And now, unless they trade for somebody, and there's not many teams with that 2 goalie setup that they did a couple of months ago, like Vegas or Carolina, or any of those teams that were kind of a question mark with a couple of decent goalies, there's not a whole lot of that anymore.
No. I really think it kind of speaks. The goalie market disappeared. I was looking at it beforehand to see who would sign in Toronto. And I was like, I guess, I don't even remember who I had. I had someone else completely different, not Mrazek. And I was like, well, I guess they're going to be the guy. And nope, they went Mrazek, which I find really interesting, especially at the number they signed him at.
Yeah, I mean, Freddie got like $600K more or something like that. It's not very far off, and I think Freddie's a way better goalie than Mrazek.
Mrazek got 11.4 milli on 3 years, and look, I don't have anything bad to say about the guy. He's a solid starter. He belongs as an NHL starter.
Mm-hmm.
But Jack Campbell earned the crease for those guys last year, was their best player in every single game, bar none. And that includes a list of guys like Matthews and Marner and Tavares. And like, I'm talking not just the playoffs, I'm talking, regular season. He was easily the most visible and important guy. And now you're bringing in Peter Mrazek, who expects to earn the spot at some point, or at least to be given a chance to earn it. And what do? So now you're going to tell Campbell, look, I know that you're not making a ton of money here, but Peter's going to compete with you in camp, and whoever's the best goalie is going to win, or, you're just going to split time with him, because Mrazek doesn't want to give up the crease. That's my understanding, is that he's an alpha and he always has been. And I don't know, maybe Toronto felt like this is a thing. I look at that Leafs roster today versus the Leafs roster at the end of the playoffs, and it is a markedly worse team, in my opinion. Hyman gone is a big loss.
That's a huge loss.
Anderson, okay, I know how people didn't love Freddie, but Freddie as your your 1A was fine. Mrazek, okay, we'll call that a wash. Foligno out is, I know he was there for a good time, not a long time, but he was a guy they brought in specifically as a character guy.
Yeah.
They were like, we need some more grit and grime. And I mean, the guys that they brought back to replace these guys are mostly on 2-way deals, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the big one that I can think of is Kempf.
Yeah.
Kempf was a good pickup by them. He'll be able to play in the third line spot. But I mean, they didn't bring in a whole lot.
They brought in Bunting, and the big
which
selling point on Bunting was he's played with Keefe and knows Dubas.
he did well. I mean, he had 10 goals in 21 games last year, and he's a solid-ish player, but I don't know. And they lost, not that Bogosian's a huge part, but they did lose Bogosian too on defense, and their defense is still going to be fine, but he was a good rotation guy who could come in and he knew what he was going to do.
Yeah. I don't think that they're the worst. They're still going to compete for a playoff. The new divisions are the old divisions are going to make it tough for the Leafs and our Canadians to compete. But I still think both of them will be in the mix.
I would like to think so.
The Habs had some decent pickups, at least in my eyes, and I might be. And by might be, I mean I am extremely biased in saying this. So I'm going to go full homer here for a little bit. David Savard as a pickup, probably one of my favorite deals. And everybody, I want to say this: will always roast Marc Bergevin because some deals that he has given out have been trash. Like the worst deals you could possibly give out. Yeah. 4 at, what was it? 4.5, 3.5?
3.5.
Amazing. That's so palatable in terms of a deal for a guy that's going to slot in and likely play top 4 minutes. But there were, I was listening to guys talk about how he's going to try to be the replacement for Weber. And I was like, no. You guys are misunderstanding what's happening. Instead of running 4D deep, they're actually going to try and run 6. They're going, what a markedly crazy idea. They're going to spread the minutes out. So they don't need to replace Weber with someone Weber-esque. What they need is someone who's solid and is not going to bone you on the back end that can do the things that Weber sort of did. I would love to see him playing with Romanov, but I can also see Sherratt Romanov as like a smash and pound kind of line. Like good luck entering the zone, we will murder you kind of deep pairing. There's all sorts of different ways that this can play out, but I think Romanov's going to get a solid opportunity to prove himself here. We still have Petry as our lightest hitting defenseman. Jeff Petry, who in my books is probably one of the most underrated defensemen in the league, is going to be the lightest hitting of the bunch there, and he's probably one of the more solid ones. We have Edmonton and Sherratt, Savard. Like they're okay. I love that pickup.
Defensively, I mean, there's a number of combinations that we can do. In my eyes, I think Edmonton Petry is a lock. I mean, they played together all year last year, and I think they'll be able to play that top pairing together. And then the bottom 4 is kind of a mix match. Like I could see Sherratt coming down to the third pairing, Romanov playing second pairing left side, and then sliding in Kulak or Matthias Norlinder onto that third pairing right side. And then you kind of split up the youth with a veteran guy, or you go with the 2 veteran guys and the 2 youngsters, which could work out too. I mean, and even though those are the pairings on sheet, that's not the pairing that's going to go out every single time. Right. Because they're all usable players. Like Savard's not going to play 22 minutes a night for us like Weber did.
No,
and he doesn't have to.
Exactly. Yep.
He'll go out and he'll put in a solid 15, 16 minutes on a good night. And if he's having not so good of a night, we have guys like Petry who can play 22 minutes, Edmondson who can play 22 minutes, and guys who can pick up that extra time because we're so deep. And I think that's what some people are missing. Like, yes, $3.5 million is a great contract. He's not a team make it or break it player. He's not a guy that really would push us over the limit, but we don't need that. We need another player that will fit the role and work with our system. And that's just how I view that. I mean, I made a video a while ago saying, these are the players that I want to target in the offseason. Hoffman was on that list. Savard was on that list. And I think I had Wenberg on that list. But, I mean, that's rough. But
we got Chris Weidman on there as well. And, I mean, that's not... And he's a power play kind of specialist when we've had that before. But, like, this is exactly what Montreal is trying to build. They're going, look, the bottom pairing of our defense will be a rotation.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be rotational. We'll bring guys that are going to play with... Some guys will play with Petry and someone else, and they'll play 10 minutes a night, and they'll be fine. Romanov's got to learn first and foremost, but he's there. Hoffman was the big signing that I was hoping for. I also like Cedric Paquette, kind of as a Grit guy. I don't know anything about JSDA.
He never really was a massively producing player, but he's kind of a two-way center that will be a rotator. Like he can come in and cover on injury, but he's not a make it or break it guy. I mean, he's never really held down a solid NHL job, but he's been playing for a long time and he produces well at the AHL level. And so,
the deal doesn't hurt. It's like these are like roster fillers. Same thing with Louis Belpedio.
Yeah,
it's a roster filler at this point. Not a roster filler though, as you mentioned. The one signing that I was crossing all of my limbs for was Mike Hoffman. Apparently, the Habs were rumored to be in on Hoffman last season, and Hoffman opted to go St. Louis. And
even though we offered $1 million more, I just want to put that out there.
Yes, but that goes to, I think that speaks to a little bit about the, like, playing in Canada isn't as sought after in a league where the attention is largely driven from Canada. Most of our media in Canada is ruthless. In Montreal, in particular, it's ruthless. And, if you're a guy that's not performing, then you will get called out, and you'll get called out pretty bluntly, and usually in 2 languages. So it's not fun. But I think he looked at his opportunity here and he said, all right, well, they went on a run. They've got a lot of youth right now. Carey, even if he's hurt right now, he's still got plenty of years left in terms of contract. So I assume he plays until he's almost 40.
Yep. No, I agree.
So like there's plenty of things to look at there. And on a 3-year deal, we finally have a veteran scorer who has decided to sign here. And I couldn't be more happy with it.
And like, you look around the NHL, and this might sound a little homer, but I genuinely don't know what other team we can look at right now with the wing depth that we have. I mean, on the left side, we've got Drouin, Toffoli, and now Hoffman, right? And we're looking at guys like Paul Byron. Is he going to be good enough to make our lineup? We still have Lehkonen. On the right side, we've got Caulfield, we've got Gallagher, Anderson. Armia's going to be a 4th liner for us. He could play 2nd line minutes on some teams.
Yeah, for sure.
And like, down the middle is a bit of a question mark for us right now because Drouin or Deneau is gone, but I think it helps us and hurts us at the same time. It changes our forward dynamic a little bit, but the biggest thing will be, is Kotkaniemi able to step up into that 2nd line center position? Because I don't think we're signing anybody else for a roster spot.
No, I don't either.
So it seems that he's going to be sold on either using Kotkaniemi in that 2nd line center, or moving on from Kotkaniemi and picking up a player via trade, like I say this regrettably because I'm not sold on the idea of it, but picking up or inquiring about a Jack Eichel. But I am totally okay with having Kotkaniemi play 2nd line center. And then we have Evans or Paling who can fill in the 3rd and 4th. And if one of them slumps, we have Paquette, who is an NHL player. Like, we have options, and I think Bergevin made a good move by being conservative with his cap. He didn't go out and try and splash on a huge player. He brought in 2 solid pieces, and with Weber going on LTIR, Paul Byron, I don't think Paul Byron is going to be a Canadian next year.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have a new home, which is sad because I really do like Paul Byron. But
Me too.
if we move on from Byron, Weber goes on LTIR, we still have 10 million in cap.
Yeah.
And that'll sign a Suzuki, that'll sign a Romanov, and then we're golden.
I think we often, as Habs fans, we get stuck in this weird spot. I love Thomas Plikanich unconditionally. There is no reason for me to love that guy as a player because in terms of production, he's very limited. He's a D-zone face-off specialist who occasionally can scrape together a goal. He's going to give you 10 to 15 a year, and he did it all the time. But when they talked about trading him, it was like ripping my heart out. Paul Byron is the same way in my eyes. I love the speed that Byron brings, but he's never put it together for long periods. He's had flashes where he's like 4 or 5 games in a row and he's putting up a goal or 2. It's like all of that is like amazing. And I'm never going to take away the like incredible from the knees Leaf shorty, like he's got some incredible goals and he's wheels for days.
Yeah.
I don't think we need him.
No, we don't need him.
Jake Evans is fast too.
Yeah.
Anderson is a bull in a china shop. Guy is so fast. There's not a need for a burner who has little finish at this point. And I'm not trying to be hateful towards our guy. I love Byron, but we fall in love with players. This happens to a lot of my friends who are Leaf fans as well. They fall in love with guys for inexplicably. It doesn't happen as much. I think Ottawa Senators fans do it too, but I don't think it happens as much out west. Maybe Calgary. Maybe Calgary is like, when they traded Dion, they're like, Dion, why? And then it was like, well, he's a pylon. That's why. Because he's not good anymore. He's not elite. That's why he's gone. So I totally agree with you. I hope that he gets an opportunity elsewhere to perform. I feel the same way about Phil Deneau, who you mentioned signed with the Kings for way too much money for way too long.
Exactly.
Welcome to free agent day. This is what happens. So Phil Deneau signing, was it 6 years and 5.5?
Yeah.
Oof.
And like losing Deneau and probably losing Byron does change our team identity a little bit because those are 2 of our best penalty killers. But we still have Armia. Suzuki had time on the penalty kill. Evans had time on the penalty kill. So we've got Plikanich too. Exactly. And we still have elite penalty killers. Evans was arguably just as good as Deneau on the penalty kill. He had fantastic killing and a ton of time doing it. He was the second penalty kill unit. And Toffoli did some time on the penalty kill when Suzuki went out for that 3rd shift. And I think now we'll just see that shift up one. Now we'll see Evans take over that 1st unit. Suzuki will play the 2nd unit. And then you've got Armia, who you can put there, Toffoli, who you can put there. You've got so many depth 2-way forwards that are still solid 2 ways. And Hoffman will immediately help the power play as well. And I think we have a ton of options for power play now. I don't think Corey Perry's coming back.
Oh, I really want him to, but I don't see where he plays.
Exactly. And what really stood out to me was the Paquette and Day signings. To me, Paquette will be what Corey Perry was for next year, because Corey Perry would have been a rotator. I don't think he would have been a regular, but that's a guy we're losing off of the power play. But putting Hoffman into that position, it's an upgrade. It just is.
Yeah.
So.
We won't spend forever on the Habs because we do have a ton, but I am really sad if Perry doesn't come back. I'll be honest with you. It's he is not because he did anything particularly well or bad. He just, again, you fall in love with guys inexplicably, and he's just like a total goon that went out there and like mixed it up. But that's why we love Gallagher. Except Gallagher can score when he's not, nursing 7 injuries at once.
Yeah.
I want to shift down to the team that beat the Habs in the Stanley Cup final. Tampa somehow looks like they got better. And I don't know how to say this. So I know people are going to point, they're going to be like, the entire third line is gone. They can't be any better. They lost, Goodrow and Gord, and I'm missing the third guy. He went today. Coleman. Okay. So all 3 guys are very good. But they weren't going to stay, and everybody knew that.
No.
The Lightning bring in Brian Elliott on a 1-year deal.
Yep.
Solid. Okay. Charles Hudon, if you remember correctly, at next to nothing roster filler, fill in if you need it. But the main point is he's cheap, super cheap, so cheap, and that's what Tampa loves. Braden Point re-ups for exactly what he's worth. Totally worth it.
Doesn't that make the Marner contract look awful?
Yes, it does. 100%. But we'll get there because I have to LOL at the Leafs one more time. We'll talk about the Bruins before we do it. They bring back Bogosian.
Yep.
Bogosian I think he was there before, and that's why he came back. Yeah. So he on a very
3
friendly
years.
deal, 3-year at 2.55, not per total. What a deal. And P.E. Bellemare.
Great pickup.
Huge pickup, 2 years, $2 million.
Yep.
So they bring in guys to fill out. So there are 4th line guys who arguably were improving anyway. Who was the French guy they had down there? I forget his name right now off the top of my head. Anyway, they had a couple of guys that scored some goals. They offload Tyler Johnson, I believe, today.
Yep.
So they've got space now, and all of a sudden I think they're still over technically.
Once Seabrook goes on to LTIR, they'll have some cap space. I mean, right now they're sitting at 85,370 or 85,370,000.
Yeah.
Which is over, but they've got Seabrook and he'll go on LTIR sooner than later. And then they've got some more cap space to maybe sign another 3rd liner, maybe sign another 4th liner kind of a thing. But
did they not get better though?
Yeah.
Do you not look at this and go, well, where are they weak now?
Yeah, exactly. And it's they lost a ton of players. They lost Gord, they lost Johnson, they lost their whole 3rd line. You're looking at a team that lost 5 players, and I'm still what do we do?
Yeah, it makes no sense. This team is clearly built to compete, and I think they'll. I don't know if they'll three-peat. I'm not going to go out on a limb because that repeat is impossibly hard.
Yeah,
repeat is unheard of.
No, it's tough.
We haven't seen a three-peat. I don't think. Maybe the Islanders in the 80s.
Yeah, the Islanders was the last team.
So it just doesn't happen. So I would be amazed, but they got better.
Yeah,
got better, and I'm super impressed with what they did. The Bruins made a couple of pickups that are, I think, a little bit. They're Bruiny.
They are Bruiny.
They picked up Foligno.
He fits.
They picked up Forbert.
He fits.
Yeah. Eric Holla.
Same thing.
Yep. And I know I'm missing somebody. Grosnick.
Yep.
I think
Grosnick or Thomas Nosek.
Yes. Yeah.
So I like the pickups they made. I mean, Foligno maybe a little bit too pricey for my blood, but
Allmark is too pricey for my blood.
Allmark is a little too it's tough, right? I definitely wouldn't have went balls to the wall to sign him, but they kind of had no other choice.
Like you mentioned, who else is available on
nobody
goalie deals?
There's
If you're Yaroslav Halak, are you pissed off you took 1.5 1 year right now?
Yeah.
Given that like other guys were taking
Yeah.
4 at
Yeah.
5.
And like I'm really big on Allmark, and I think they signed Allmark to hope that he's good enough and then trade him in the future, because
Swayman's their goalie of the future.
Swayman is their goalie of the future, but he's not ready for that full-time step yet. And that's what I was talking about. Like, Vladar is not there.
No.
He might be one day, but you need some sort of veteran presence, because a young goalie is going to have his ups and downs. And bringing in a guy who on Buffalo put up a 915 in in 1920, 34 games played, he put up a 915, and then this year in 20 games played, he put up a 917 on Buffalo.
I think if anyone that played on Buffalo deserves a pass for their last performance in Buffalo. I don't think you can look at Ristolainen and go, that guy's no good. You have to understand where they are. Linus Ullmark had nothing in front of him. And I mean, like, nothing. He's playing with like a bunch of guys with dead contracts, dead souls, no spirit. Everybody's like deflated the entire year. In fact, I'm pretty sure I read a Twitter like timeline that was like outlining how the Sabres had no goalies signed at one point.
They actually right now have 0 goaltenders in the NHL. The only 2 goalies signed in their entire organization are Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and Dustin Tokarski.
Ooh, little throwback to Tokarski.
Yeah, little throwback.
I heard David Ayers is getting a $3 million deal with Buffalo.
Oof. And Luukkonen's probably going to be good one day, but if they throw him in now, they're throwing him to the Wolves, and they're going to ruin his career.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
So the Bruins did Bruiny things, and they also look very good. The Taylor Hall pickup, to me, is probably the move that they needed to make.
Yep. They saved it.
Hilariously enough, I saw a tweet, and I don't have it in front of me, and I wish I did. And they were like, they put the contracts of Matthews and Marner, and I think that was it, just Matthews and Marner, up against Bergeron, Marchand, and Hall, and it's not even close.
Not even close.
And it's like, so are you giving up? This is what happens when you're forced to pay to play. Yeah. When you're a team that hasn't had a ton of playoff success in a long time, and you finally get the pieces you need, you have to pay the money to keep you back up the truck, and you keep them happy. Yeah. Unfortunately, in a cap league, that means that you have to build, like, the way the Leafs have been built is not conducive to long-term sustainable success. They are a team that is very talented, and I need that to be clear before anybody comes in the comments and sits here and goes, you can't blame the best regular season. I don't care. They're not built to win anything.
Yeah.
They're not built from the net out. They're not built any traditional way. The only way that they're built is with 5 top end guys trying to buy it. It reminds me of the like early 90s when the Rangers would just be like, we got Mark Messier now. And you're like, what do you mean? And they're like, we gave him a bunch of money. Yeah. Now he's ours. And you're like, well, why can't we do that? And they're like, you're in Canada. You only got like a little bit of money. We're New York. We got all the money. And it was like, I hated it. As a kid, I was always yelling at but they're just buying the Stanley Cup. And they did. That's what it reminds me of. So Leaf fans, I feel your pain, because you have some of the best talent in the world and you're doing nothing with it.
Yes. And the big thing for me is you look at all the top contending teams in the league, and you look at their roster, and you know exactly what you're going to get from them this year and next year. The Leafs, it is completely luck in the offseason, because they're forced to sign so many guys to plug up their bottom 6, because what they need to do every single year until the cap raises or something changes is they need to take these players that are a maybe, like some player with some good upside, like picking up Galchenyuk. That was exactly, and they need to make 14 of those every single year to fill out their bottom six to possibly have a chance. A team doesn't win off of a good top six, because then if you have a really, really good, really highly paid top six, they're not playing 60 minutes a night. There are going to be times that your bottom six is out there, and you need to have a solid bottom six. And there's going to be so many players coming in and out of the Toronto Maple Leafs, throwing money at Joe Thornton. That one, unlucky. Throwing money at Spezza. Lucky. Good one. Throwing money at this guy, at that guy. And they just need to hope that they hit with a bunch of lucky ones, and then they'll have a good year. Next year, all those lucky ones will be gone, and they have to hope to do it again.
Yeah.
And it's tough.
I don't know how they do it. I don't know if they can do it. I know that we briefly touched on them. The Seattle Kraken made a bit of a splash, not just in net. They picked up Jaden Schwartz.
They did.
I just want to, so in the division they're in, it's incredibly winnable.
Yes.
So they add Grubauer, Schwartz. They picked up someone else they picked up Wenberg.
Yep, that was a good pickup. I mean, they look like they're gonna do it. Like, not do it, but it looks like they're gonna be a good team. Yeah. Not a great team, but a good team, good enough team. Because you look down the roster and they're built through, like, Eberle, Schwartz, Gord, Wenberg. Those four players, four good, solid players. And they're good players to have in a roster because they're versatile.
Yeah.
They don't have that top-end talent. But, I mean, looking at the picks that they've made that are going to be on the team, looking at the draft or the free agent pickups that they have, I can't sit here and say that they're going to be awful. They're definitely not going to be as good as Vegas when they first came into the league, I don't think. But they have players that can possibly be the Carlson. I mean, guys like Mason Appleton, guys like Colin Blackwell, like those two are the two that stand out to me of having the potential where if you just go, all right, boys, it's the Wild West, go get your minutes. The hardworking guys like the Appletons and the Blackwells and the Jared McCanns and the Wenbergs, giving them enough minutes, they might be able to do something. So
yeah. I want to, I mean, there's so much to cover and we won't get to it all. So I apologize again, but that's why you follow Zach on TikTok, because he'll be talking about this, I'm pretty sure, for a while. As people ask him, he does have a Q&A spot on his TikTok. You can ask him, what is Edmonton doing?
I've never seen a team. Sorry, really quick before you get into it. Yeah. I've never seen a team both sell the farm and get worse in the same offseason.
So you have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. You go into the playoffs and you blow it. You try to play defensively, but that stifles your two offensive stars. You try to play offensively, you've got no one to stop the puck, no defense to be seen. Your main defender is out for the year. Clefbaum's gone. He's
gone.
Done. You're not going to see him.
Nope.
So what do? Your best defenseman, you let sign with the expansion team.
Also gone.
So now he's gone. So there's two defensemen gone. You bring in the corpse of Duncan Keith. Duncan Keith, who was relevant when Zach was a teenager, is now in. There are kids, like there are people like myself who have children who were young when Duncan Keith was relevant. Yeah. The guy, I don't actually hate the signing. I think it's important to bring him in and bring some of that veteran leadership and actually mentor guys and show them how to play the right way. I just don't like that they gave what they gave up to get him. I think it's too much salary, too much everything.
I totally agree. Bringing in Keith, good surface idea. Bringing in Duncan Keith with no retained salary, still not the worst, but not what you want. Giving up Caleb Jones for a Duncan Keith, no retained salary, yeesh. Yeah. Losing Larson after that, yeesh. Signing Cody Ceci.
So Cody Ceci gets on. Hold on, you forgot you buried the lead. Mike Smith comes back.
Yeah,
because he did. So like, I don't hate Mike Smith, but are we like, that's the best we like before all the goalies were gone, that was your best option. So we go Mike Smith, and then you bring in Cody Ceci to replace Adam Larson. You re-sign Tyson Berry, who I don't know if you know this, wasn't any good to begin with.
I think Tyson Berry has his use on that team because he is very good on the power play. He's got a great eye for the ice.
He's a forward.
But he's a forward, man. You need players to play defense. He's a great utility player for McDavid on the power play. Yes. But there's nobody keeping the puck out of your net. You put all of your faith into a 39-year-old Mike Smith who had the year of his entire career last year. Yeah. And it's not going to happen again. Koskinen is so bad. He's so awful. He big mistake giving him that contract, and it is completely unmovable. They are going to be stuck with that contract for the entirety of time itself. But looking at how many goalies were shifted around and how many goalies went here, there, traded, some teams signing multiple goalies. I mean, Carolina rebuilt their entire goalie core. They got rid of everybody and signed completely new guys. And you're telling me Edmonton couldn't get one of them?
So Edmonton signed Mike Smith early. They signed him on like the 22nd.
Why?
Unofficially, I think, or maybe officially. I don't know. I don't know if he was allowed to. So they signed him on the 22nd. And again, I mention it. Jaro Halak signed in Vancouver for less money. You don't think you could offer that to Jaro Halak, who I understand he's maybe not like the elite of elite, but he's solid. There's plenty of guys out there who are Braden Holtby got $1 million or $2 million for a year in Dallas to play as the fourth goaltender they have there. They have 4 goalies. Yes. You're going with Mike Smith. And then the pièce de résistance is they go, well, we're going to have to get some more scoring because we don't have anybody to defend anything. So they grab Zach Hyman, a solid pickup for a lot of years.
A lot of years. That's my issue. I think Hyman fits perfect on that team. I really like the pickup.
I like Hyman. I thought the Habs should have tried for Hyman. I would not have given him 7 years, and I think 5.5 is a bit rich for what I would have paid on the Habs. I understand the logic behind it, but you've done nothing to help anyone.
No.
I don't know if you follow football at all, but Aaron Rodgers has recently been really disgruntled with Green Bay because they don't engage with him during free agency or the draft or anything, and he wants weapons so that he can play better so he can win the goddamn Super Bowl. Right. It's not rocket science. Why was Connor McDavid consulted on anything here? They're like, Connor, we're going to bring in Zach Hyman, and he's probably like, great. And they're like, don't tell him about anything else.
Yeah, just leave him to be happy. Like, looking at everything that they've done and going, yeah, I mean, I like that they got Hyman. It's for too long and maybe too much, but I like the player. It doesn't make any sense. Like, even starting at the draft, like even before the draft, as soon as I saw that Keith trade, I'm like, this is just getting the ball rolling. And now, like, we've seen them fork out money for CC. We've seen them trade away Caleb Jones and Ethan Bear for
why did you get rid of Ethan Bear?
Like, he probably ended up requesting a trade because Edmonton Oilers fans did say some, not all fans, but there were a lot of negative comments toward him after a botched play.
Yeah.
So I understand from his point of view, if he wanted to trade out, sure. But you cannot trade Ethan Bear, who was making $2 million, for the rights to sign a 25-year-old left wing, right wing, Warren Foegele. Because now you have $1 million. They have $1,200,000 of cap space right now, excluding Clefbaum, who actually they don't have on LTIRs. Maybe Clefbaum is coming back, but
I don't think so.
If Clefbaum goes on LTIR, they have like $5.2 million. If he doesn't, they have 1.2. They have to sign Warren Foegele and Kyler Yamamoto.
Yeah.
And Kyler Yamamoto is 22 years old. He is an NHL player. He's a good NHL player, and he's going to want decent money. He's not going to get his big boy contract, but he could warrant $2.5-3 million bridge deal.
Yep.
And they can't even give him that.
Looking at this Oiler roster right now, so you've got McDavid at 12.5, Draisaitl at 8.5, Hyman at 5.5, RNH at 5.1, Zack Kassian as your fifth highest paid forward at 3.2, Kyle Turris at 1.65, Josh Archibald, Derek Ryan, Jesse Puljujarvi, and Devin Shore and Ryan McLeod, and then you've got 2 RFAs. What is this? What are you doing with, like, so I guess the plan is Draisaitl, McDavid, line 1, and Hyman with one of the others, or RNH. Like
either that or, well, I would say they would probably do. Puljujarvi played time with McDavid.
Sure.
So I could see their first line being Hyman, McDavid, Puljujarvi, and that's a solid line. And then Draisaitl with Nugent Hopkins and I guess Kassian, which is not a bad second line. Kassian's not the guy you want there, but I mean,
what would you rather put Kyle Turris there?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's your option.
Well,
Kyler Yamamoto is supposed to be there, I know.
Yeah, that would be the guy that I would love to have there. And you know what? That is a good top 6. And then the rest of the team, the rest of the forward core, are AHLers and rotation players.
And then on defense, they get even worse because it's Darnell Nurse at 5'6".
Great contract.
Duncan Keith at 5'5".
Awful.
Also 38 years old. Tyson Berry at 4'5". Okay, in what world? And then Clefbaum at 4'1". And if you had those 4 ready to play right now, I would say that is an okay decor. Nurse needs help. Yes. When he's doing everything, he's 26. He doesn't have he had no one to show him anything.
Yeah.
He's looking at Tyson Berry like, what do we do, man? And he's like, I don't know. I'm mostly a forward. Yeah. Cody Ceci and Chris Russell are your next 2 down, and then they've got Bouchard and Legason. That's not whatever.
I mean, like Cody Ceci had the best year of his career. He had the best year of his career in Pittsburgh. He put up 17 points in 53 games, was a plus 18. This was only like the 3rd time in his entire career that he's been a plus player. I hate the plus minus stat. Sure. I don't use it as an anchor, but it says at least a little bit. And like, yes, he did have the best numbers of his career last year, but he was also playing in Pittsburgh.
He's 4% of their cap.
And he's 4% of their cap. And that is my favorite argument to a lot of things is cap percentage. I think Cody Ceci being at 4% of your cap says a lot, looking down their lineup and seeing the cap distribution to all the rest of the guys.
Zack Kassian is almost 4% of their cap.
And it's just, you don't want 8% of your cap being Zack Kassian and Cody Ceci, not to mention throwing another 6.8% of your cap at Duncan Keith.
No.
who I think Duncan Keith might have an okay year this year. He'll probably play with Tyson Berry. No, he'll probably play with Cody Ceci. And that's going to be the slowest D-pairing in the league. But I don't think it's awful. Next year is going to be terrible because he's still making 5.5. And how Chicago could trade Duncan Keith for profit when you're seeing guys like Gostisbehere who makes less having to be paid to be taken is beyond me.
Yeah. It is the most tirey fire of tire fires. It like Leafs first round exit, who cares? Montreal making draft gaffes, who cares? What the hell is this? What is this? Like, I don't understand this team construction, and maybe they'll prove me wrong, and maybe they're doing a full Mark Bergevin.
I hope they do.
And like they're playing well. I don't know.
I really hope they prove me wrong. And I feel bad because I've been going off on the Oilers on my TikTok, and I feel bad for Oilers fans. And I've been outspoken to say that the Edmonton Oilers is the only team that I do not like in the entire NHL, not because of the players they have on their team, because of their management. And I feel bad for Oilers fans because you want to love this team so much looking at McDavid. You want to go, I'm so proud of that guy. But there's nothing to be proud of yet because the management can't put together anything else. And it's sad. I remember like looking at the moves that Chiarelli was making and going, oh my God, get him out of here. Yeah. I watched Chiarelli back. Ken Holland is worse.
Yeah, he way worse.
Ken Holland is worse than the guy who traded Taylor Hall for Adam Larson because Ken Holland lost Adam Larson for nothing.
Yeah. Like, I don't get it, man. I don't get it.
It makes me upset.
The whole team is a bit of a mess, and by a bit I mean it's a complete dumpster fire. They don't have anything going for them. I don't understand what's going on. We have way too much to cover and not enough time to do it all. I do want to get you out on this one last thing that happened in the hockey world. Marc-Andre Fleury, a Vezina winning trophy goaltender, a Stanley Cup champion goaltender, a goaltender that was told inexplicably, I don't know why you would tell him this, but you told him you're going to retire a Vegas Golden Knight, was traded to the Chicago Blackhawks. Okay, great move for Chicago. For nothing. Again, the third time that this has been brought up today, multiple people trading for nothing.
Yeah.
He found out on Twitter, which is garbage, but why would Vegas do this for Robin Lehner? Because I don't hate Robin Lehner. I mean, I do a little bit. I think he's a bit of a jackass, but as a goaltender, I think that he's okay.
Yeah, Lehner's a decent goalie.
But Fleury won the Vezina.
He won the Vezina. And you got nothing. You got nothing for him. And I get it. He's an aged goalie, but he's on the last year of his contract. And you couldn't find a team to give you anything for him. And I wouldn't be upset at it if it wasn't Fleury, because everyone in the NHL loves Fleury. Mm-hmm. But if they took that, because $7 million of cap space right now is very valuable. If they took that cap space and they did something useful with it, like get a first line center, I would be okay. All right. If that was your major plan all along, if they then went out and they traded, like if they flipped a couple of players, a couple of young kids and picked up a first line center, I'd be like, all right, I can get with this because it makes sense. But they traded for Dadonov for $5 million. And then they signed
Sven Baertschi and Brossois, and they re-signed Janmark.
Yeah, Brossois, good goalie, good backup goalie. I would trust him to be my backup goalie and play 20 games. He can play 20 games. Robin Lehner cannot play 62 games.
No.
I don't think. And
no, he can't.
He can't play 62 games and get you the same amount of points that Fleury would have for this year. And it's like, I don't understand what the game plan there was, because I'm looking down the middle and they still have William Carlson as their best centerman, who plays on the second line, and Chandler Stevenson's going to be their first line center again.
Which
And
is a problem. It was a problem in the
enough.
playoffs. Yeah, it was exposed by a gritty, fast Habs team that beat them down. So
Chandler Stevenson, not to take anything away from him, is a great center. He's a great third line center because he's fast, he's creative, and I really do like what Chandler Stevenson brings, especially for 2.75. Like, nothing wrong with Chandler Stevenson at all.
No.
The issue is he's not a first line center.
Yeah.
And they still don't have one.
No, and they won't. Dougie Hamilton signed the biggest deal of the day, of course. We don't really need to get into it. Good luck in New Jersey, Mr. Hamilton.
Yeah.
Where can the people find you and ask you all these questions? I know I've mentioned it a few times, but
so I'm on TikTok at Amateur Analyst. I'm on Instagram at Amateur Analyst 1. I'm on YouTube at Amateur Analyst. I'm Amateur Analyst on everything. And as far as reaching out to me, I'm super friendly. I answer a lot of comments, and I still have all of my notifications on TikTok on, so my phone just consistently goes bloop, 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 and I love it. It's a ton of fun, and I really enjoy making content. So definitely go check me out on there. I don't know if you'll want me to do this, but I have a podcast of my own in the works right now. I know I was talking to you after the show last week about it.
Yeah.
But it looks like things are starting to fall into place for me. So that might be a new endeavor on the horizon. I might be starting my own thing. Nothing finalized of yet, but I've got a couple of guys who are interested in co-hosting with me. So that'll be exciting. And that's basically it.
Nice. So we'll definitely keep an eye out for the podcast coming. Again, if you're looking for Zack, find him. Largely on TikTok at Amateur Analyst, but like you said, all the socials on YouTube as well. Thanks for doing this again, Zack.
Of course. Thanks for having me.